All right. I see the number jumping. So, hello, everybody. Welcome. We will be getting started in 1 minute to let everybody start trickling in. Okay, cool. I think everybody should be in that signed in. So, we can get started for the afternoon. So, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our FPF info session, which includes the academic advisors and FPF peer mentors. So just as a reminder, as we're starting, this is a webinar, which means we cannot see or hear you. And also the chat feature is disabled. So if you have any questions, please submit through the Q&A function there is a question already in the chat. So feel free to use the Q&A chat throughout the webinar as we provide information throughout. Please input your question in the chat and we will either respond via a typed response, which will happen throughout the webinar presentation. And if we select your question to be answered live, that will be happening at the end during the Q&A session. So with that, we will start now with our webinar. Yes, and it is being recorded, and it will be sent out in the next few days/weeks to all the registrants. So hi again, and welcome to those who are just joining. We're very excited to be here this afternoon. Again, this is the FPF info session, which includes our academic advisors and our FPF peer mentors. My name is Juan, and I'm one of the FPF advisors hosting today's presentation. Um, so, um, this is the amazing advising team in FPF. As I just shared on the previous slide, my name is Juan, and my pronouns are he and his, and I am one of the 3 academic advisors in this program. I joined FPF back in July of 2024, so relatively new. But prior to advising students in this program, I was also involved with new student services at UC Berkeley. So the department that handles orientation and will be probably the next step in your journey through Cal if you have said yes or will say yes to UC Berkeley. Um, and so now is the time for the rest of the staff here to introduce themselves. So I will popcorn it to Sarah.
Thank you, Juan. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sarah Gamboa, she, her pronouns, and I'm an academic advisor in FPF. And I've been with the program for about 5 years now. And I also advised in the College of Letters and Science before coming to FPF. And I was there for about 11 years. So I'm very familiar with campus and the different departments, um, program planning, policy within LNS. So I'm very excited to be here today. And I will hand it over to Amy.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Amy Zins. I use she, her pronouns, and I've been with FPF as an instructor since 2016. And then last July, I transitioned to the role of academic advisor. Prior to that, my degrees were in theater arts, and I also have a bit of experience with the film industry. And with this, I'm going to pop it off to and pass the mic to Sia.
Hi, my name is Sia. I am one of the peer mentors. I'm a sophomore, so I did the FPF program fall 2023. And I'll pass it on to Quinn.
Hi everyone, I'm Quinn. I'm an FPF peer mentor. I did FPF in fall of 2021, and now I'm going to be a graduating senior. And I'll pass it over to Micah.
Hi, I'm Micah. I'm an FPF peer mentor, and I did the FPF in fall of 2024, so I'm still first year. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you everybody for introducing themselves. And you'll hear a lot more from everybody as the info session goes on. Feel free to check our bios out on the FPF website, which is fpf.berkeley.edu. You'll see our staff bios and our FPF peer mentor bios. So if you want to get to know us a little bit more, please check us out on the website. Um, and something to keep in mind, everyone up on this slide was once in your shoes. A newly admitted student, whether a first year or a transfer, starting out a new campus, dealing with a large variety of feelings and emotions, excitement, nervousness, all the feelings that comes with the territory of getting into college and seeing what the unknowns are. So please know that what you may be experiencing right now when it comes to either leaving home or staying local, but still getting to know a different environment, beginning your first semester of college, it's all perfectly normal. We've all experienced it through our journeys navigating a four-year institution like UC Berkeley. So with that being said, um, we can continue with our agenda for today, which is pretty straightforward. We will go over what FPF is, so a general overview, which includes how to what to look forward to with your fall semester of your first year. We'll go over sample schedules of former FPF students and have our current students talk through our current students who were in FPF through about their schedules and how that led to their journey as of right now, whether that they're a spring semester first year, a current second year, or a graduating senior. And then we'll have a question and answer session at the very end with all of us. So feel free, like I said earlier, feel free to continue inputting your questions in the chat. We'll respond via chat as the info session goes on. But if there's any questions that need to be saved to the end to be answered live, we'll make a note of that. And if for whatever reason we don't get to your specific question due to either time or we need to follow up with you to give you a fully fleshed response to your question, please feel free to follow up with us via an email to fpf@berkeley.edu. And with that being said, we will get started with what is FPF? So this question comes up quite a bit for our newly admitted students. FPF is a first year pathway, and it's only for the fall semester of your first year at Berkeley, which is different from a lot of the first year pathway programs that the College of Letters and Science offers, in the sense that ours is only for the fall semester, while a lot of first year academic pathways are the entirety of the first year. So we are a cohort of students within the first year admitted class in the College of Letters and Science. Similar to other collegiate first-year programs, it creates a small collaborative learning community within the large university. So if you think about other types of programs and clubs on college campuses that build community, like the Greek system, we are a community that is more academic in nature. Um, FPF also has student advising, so FPF peer mentors who will be largely responsible in providing workshops, community building events, socials in the actual fall semester, and academic advisors, which will be very key to the FPF program, which are very accessible for you all if you decide to enroll UC Berkeley with FPF. If you are interested in learning more about our program, please check out our informational videos on YouTube. Um, Later on in the presentation, we'll link the YouTube channel in the chat/Q&A. So please keep an eye out on that. And with that, I will turn it over to Sarah.
All right. So to start with the basics, FPF is designed specifically for new first-year students who are admitted to the College of Letters and Science. So if you're a transfer or returning student, unfortunately, this program would not be an option. But for first-time LNS students, FPF is a really great way to begin your Berkeley journey. And to confirm, we are part of the College of Letters and Science, and you're a regularly enrolled, matriculated Berkeley student while you're in our program, just like everyone else. So some things to think about when deciding on FPF. First, if you're planning to use veterans' educational benefits like the post 9/11 GI Bill or dependents educational assistance, I do want to flag that FPF isn't currently approved for those benefits. So that is something to keep in mind as you explore your options. Also, if you are coming in with a completed IGETC from a California community college, FPF might not be the best fit for you. It's likely that a student in this situation has completed all of their general education requirements for LNS during high school and potentially their lower division prerequisites for their intended major and need a broader pool of courses to select from. All right, next slide, please. So let's talk about how to officially become part of FPF. And this will look a little different depending on how you were admitted. And these details will be included in your offer of admission letter to UC Berkeley if you're not sure whether you were directly admitted or not. So if you weren't directly admitted to FPF, but you are interested in joining, here's what you'll need to do. So first, accept your offer of admission to UC Berkeley by May 1st at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's very important. The second thing is once you've accepted, head to your student portal, and this is called MAP at Berkeley or My Application Portal, and look for the first year pathway selection form under the Forms section. And then third, from there you can select FPF. And you just want to be sure that you do this by May 2nd at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you were offered direct admission to FPF, all you need to do is accept your offer to UC Berkeley in your MAP at Berkeley portal by May 1st at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Once you've done that, you are all set. You're officially part of FPF, and there's nothing additional that you need to do at that point. Okay, next slide, please. So we're really proud to share that in fall 2023, our advising team connected with 96% of our assigned students in our caseloads, which is a really big deal. That number shows how committed we are to being accessible, proactive, and here for you throughout your first semester at Berkeley. But the support doesn't just start once classes begin. It actually kicks off before your first semester even starts. Your assigned FPF advisor will reach out to you in late May or early June, and that's right around the time that you'll also be going through your Golden Bear Advising and B courses. So during that time, the advisors will introduce themselves, walk you through key dates, deadlines, and what to expect over the summer, as well as the timeline for summer advising and how to schedule those meetings with advisors. And they'll be your go-to person for questions and guidance. One quick but important tip, be sure to set up and regularly check your Berkeley email. That's how your advisor is going to reach you and communicate all of this really good information to you. And please do read every message that we send. Our emails are full of important and useful information. I know that you all will be inundated with messages, not just from us, but also from LNS and other campus partners. But, it's a good idea to set aside a little bit of time every day or a couple times throughout the week to read your email. All right, next slide, please. Now let's go over what your fall semester might look like as an FPF student, especially when it comes to fulfilling requirements. So even though FPF is a smaller program, you can still make great progress towards your degree. You'll want to use the semester to focus on any major prerequisites that you can start on early, um, a class that satisfies reading and composition and/or courses that count toward quantitative reasoning or LNS breadth requirements. So basically, we encourage you to build a schedule that keeps you on track while also giving you a bit of space to explore. You'll take at least 3 courses from the FPF curriculum, and all of our courses have the X prefix in the course title. And each course that you select from our curriculum must be at least 3 or more units. And these courses are typically much smaller in size than the main campus version and designed with first-year students in mind. And also to point out, you are free to take up to 5 units of coursework outside of FPF, like a math or science course offered through the main campus. So there is some flexibility built in depending upon your interests and your goals. And also for questions on the specific non-FPF courses you are interested in taking, you can always feel free to reach out to us via email, which is fpf@berkeley.edu, and we can help clarify what those courses might consist of. All right. And also, finally, students in our program must be enrolled into 13 units minimum to be considered full-time. And the maximum units students can take while in FPF is 17.5 units. We do recommend, however, not going that high in your first semester and resting somewhere between 13 to 15 units. That seems to be a good balance for students. And yeah, it allows you time to engage in activities and getting to know your peers. And that is it for me. And I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Amy.
Thank you, Sarah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a sample course schedule that one of our students had in 2022 in FPF. And you'll notice that here that this student is now on track to graduate within 4 years with a double major in MCB, molecular and cell biology, as well as economics. And she's doing a minor in psychology. And this student chose to do all of her classes in FPF the first semester. And she took a selection of breadth and requirement classes, as well as one elective. And so she took a reading and composition class for 6 units, public speaking, which was her elective, Gender and Women's Studies for 3 units, which is an American Cultures class, which is required as part of your breadth, and also a pre-calculus to satisfy her quantitative reasoning for 4 units. So this student, the reason I wanted to highlight her schedule is some of our pre-med students come in a little nervous to not necessarily take a serious science class, particularly a Chem 1A class the first semester, and are worried that this may push them back and have trouble graduating in time or even in declaring their major. Not a problem. So just wanted to reassure you about this. And she also has very generously allowed us to share, if you are interested in pursuing this path, to share her declaration paperwork for declaring her major. So I also want to give you a little bit of an overview before I turn it over to our 3 peer mentors who will each share a bit of their class schedules and their experience here in FPF. So next slide is I wanted to share a bit with you more of an overview of our program. One of the incredible things about FPF that I wish I would have had access to when I first came to UC Berkeley is that rather than being one of 6,000 newly admitted first-year students who are all kind of blended into main campus community, which has about 40,000 students, you're part of a small cohort, which is going to be this year about 550 to 700 students. And you're going to be in a smaller, highly supportive community. Some of the ways in which we've heard that this has had a really great impact on our former students is that they talk about how much they really got out of classes by being in smaller classes rather than what they would have been on main campus. And for some of them that we've heard about retroactively that took these big classes, for instance, Math 1A on main campus, 720. Math 1A at FPF, 48 students. Psychology on main campus is about 640 students for a Psych 1 class. Here in FPF, 48. Philosophy, 260. FPF on main campus, on FPF 48. Stats, 440 on main campus, FPF 48. And then for some of the other classes that are electives or can even fulfill a breadth, such as a Music 27 music theory class, which on main campus is 330, in FPF is at 24. So these are samples of the difference that it makes and the difference that it makes in not only having smaller classes and really getting to know your instructors, but the instructors get to know you. And when for those 48-person classes, you're going to have a once a week breakout session that in FPF will be with your professor. And whereas on main campus, those breakout sessions, known as sections, are going to be with a graduate student instructor. So with this, I'm now going to pass the mic to Sia, the first of our FPF peer mentors, who will share her experience with you.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Sia. My majors are cognitive science and sociology. My minor is global public health. I am pre-med. I'll let my other 2 peer mentors jump in and quickly introduce themselves before they go into my schedule.
Hey everyone, I think I introduced myself before, but just to go into my studies, I'm majoring in psychology and I'm minoring in geography, in political economy, in public policy, as well as in science, technology, and society studies.
And then I'm Micah, and then I'm double majoring in film and media and political science.
So this is my schedule from when I did FPF in 2023. So I used my semester in FPF to basically knock out all my breaths, with the exception of MCB 32, which was one of the classes I took as a pre-med student. Going down the list, there's our R1A, which satisfies your reading and composition requirement. There's an earth science class, an integrated bio class, a general women's studies class, and MCB, as I mentioned. Each of these fulfilled one of my 7 breaths, which honestly now as a sophomore is incredibly helpful because I don't have to think about it as much. Yeah, I do think that in my current, like in this course load, you can pretty much see that there aren't any classes that are necessarily related to my two majors right now. Um, but I do think I didn't have any particular trouble in being able to uh, adjust to declare my major. I'm out of state, I'm a first generation college student, so I definitely think that being able to take smaller classes was super beneficial for me.
So this was my schedule. I also decided to focus on breaths mainly, um, which was very helpful for me because as a film major, all the introductory film classes on the main campus even were already full. So there wasn't, I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything, and I was able to get a head start on a lot of the general education requirements. Because of I took these four classes, the four with the X prefix. I'm now after this semester going to be done with breath requirements. But then I was also able to take a decal, that's the 2 unit class, outside of the FPF, which for those who don't know, a decal is a kind of smaller class taught by a student. And that was fun because it allowed me to have kind of a different experience, take a class on campus as well. So I had a good mix of getting a lot of stuff done with an FPF, but also being able to take a class on the main campus.
Yeah, so this is my schedule. This is my schedule in fall 2021. Um, Instead of taking, I had signed up for 3 FPF classes, but there was a situation where one of them ended up getting canceled. So I took only two. I took Anthropology 1A, which is Biological Anthropology. That was probably my favorite FPF course. Um, I really liked that one just because I wasn't that interested in anthropology, but there were people that were. And since it was kind of a small course, the professor was really active in talking about his research, and gave a lot of opportunities for students to work with him on that, since people were able to make a connection with him in the small class size. And then I took ESPM 50 AC, which I think Mike also took, and it's a great class for a breath and for the AC requirement. And then on main campus, I took AGRS R44, which was for my English R1B requirement. And then I took a Berkeley Connect course, which is kind of like a 1 unit seminar course that you can take. It kind of just like helps you, I don't know, get in this space with other people interested in a specific topic. And then they might bring in guest speakers, you might have discussions. So I did that for philosophy, and that was really interesting as well.
All right. Thank you all for highlighting your real life FPF academic schedules. I think showcasing what your schedules were like in the past 3 to 4 years, as we have fall 2021, fall 2023, and our most recent fall 2024 schedules from former FPF students, I think really does a great job of highlighting what the possibilities that our newly admitted students, if they pursue UC Berkeley and decide to do FPF, what are the like there's large variety of options that students can take in order to start getting through all their requirements. So with that being said, um, so one of the unique things about our program in particular as a first year academic pathway is that we have former students who participated in FPF who have came back to basically provide opportunities to engage with newly admitted students, and hopefully our newest cohort of FPF students for this fall 2025, with opportunity to engage with current students. So our FPF peer mentors, we have three in this webinar right now, but we have five in total, um, who will be available in the summer and in the fall. In the summer, our peer mentors will be engaging with you all via Golden Bear Advising, so meeting, potentially hosting office hours throughout the summer for students within the FPF cohort to engage with our peer mentors and to discuss what FPF classes they've taken that are available for this fall, to have any recommendations on classes, because it's always great to have um, the student experience and to have in the room students who have done those classes to provide that extra support that maybe academic advisors such as myself, we didn't take these classes as students, so we wouldn't be able to give you the specificities of the course, but our peer mentors can. Um, our peer mentors also will be in the fall be working to provide community building events, workshops, whether that's academic or non-academic, community building events, socials, etc., for our FPF students, to hopefully bring a sense of community amongst the cohort within our Golden Bear Center, which is the physical space where our classes will be held and where our advising offices are. Um, so if you have any questions that might be a little bit too specific, or as we've been answering in the Q&A, if you have any specific questions regarding like IGETC, for example, how far you're into that curriculum, please email us so we can further evaluate your current situation regarding academic progress, and to see if this program is a right fit. Um, but in general, please email fpf@berkeley.edu if we don't get to your questions in this presentation. Our link tree is up there. It is not fully up to date with the resources that we would like, but our link tree is up there, which connects you to a variety of different resources on campus. Um, fpf.berkeley.edu/events will be a great resource for all our students to check out what events will be happening throughout the summer and throughout the fall as we are continuously updating. Um, and our current space is the Golden Bear Center. So like I said earlier, that's where the FPF classes will be hosted, and that's where our current advising office is. So if you would like to meet any of us in person, specifically in the fall semester, that's where we will be located um, throughout the fall semester. Um, Great. And with that being said, we do have Q&A. So we did get through this webinar a little bit faster than our previous webinar. Um, so, um, but if any questions are still unanswered, please take the opportunity to write down your questions in the Q&A, and we will be answering as they come along. And feel free to, for our presenters, so the rest of the academic advisors and the peer mentors, if you want to take charge in responding to a question, please feel free to do so. Um, I will start with the first question that I indicated that I would like to answer live. So, what is the difference between the LNS clusters and these pathways? So, great question. So, the LNS pathway clusters are full year academic pathway programs. So one of the main differences is that FPF is just in the fall semester, while the LNS clusters are in the full, like they encompass both fall and spring, so the entirety of the academic year. And the LNS pathway clusters, for the most part, they're already pre-assigned courses that you have to take in your fall and in the spring. So while FPF has a dedicated curriculum, we have a large variety of FPF classes. Um, we don't, you don't have to sign up for a rigid list of classes compared to the LNS pathways. So there will be already a list of classes that um, you'll have to for if you decide to pursue the LNS academic pathways clusters, you will have to sign up for those classes that are listed as a semester. Versus we have a large variety that when it comes to your registration date, you're allowed to register for any of the classes in our list, depending on availability, of course, depending on the more specifically the availability of the course as your registration date and time um, can differ from other first years. So that depends on that largely impacts like registration. But those are the two main differences. FPF is only in the fall, while the LNS clusters are full year-long programs, and the LNS academic pathway clusters, the classes are already pre-selected for you. So if you wanted to take classes outside of the pre-selected courses, it might be a little difficult, depending on because they're meant to mimic like 13 to 15 units, um, which might be a little difficult to add additional classes outside the pre-approved uh, coursework, depending on how you might feel with multiple classes in a semester. So those are the two main differences. Um, what transportation do you recommend? So Quinn, you indicated you will answer that live.
Yeah, and I think the one after it, they're kind of similar about like housing. I would say because transportation definitely depends what dorm you live in. For me, because I knew it was an FPF, I tried to like put a preference to live in the closest dorm to FPF, which is Unit 3. But really, I had friends who lived in all the different dorms and were in FPF. So it's definitely fine no matter what dorm you're in. Generally, I think people like to take the bus to FPF. We get a free bus pass as UC Berkeley students. There's like 2 or 3 different bus lines that run basically right to FPF from some of the different dorms. So I would say bus is definitely like the best. And then you can also there's also like a Berkeley campus bus. And then also there's just walking. But again, it also depends what dorm you're in. But no matter what dorm you're in, there is at least one bus line that will go from that dorm to FPF. And then just for housing as well, like you don't need to live with people who are in FPF. Like you just live in a dorm normally. Like neither of my roommates were in FPF. Um, I think on my dorm floor, maybe there was one other person in FPF. But it wasn't really like it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, I mean some teams like you get randomly placed someone who's in FPF, sometimes not. But it won't really impact much.
Great, thank you, Quinn. Um, can students change majors in FPF? So Micah, are you going to answer this live?
Yes. So, for letters and science, at Berkeley, you are not enrolled with a certain major. So while on FPF, you will be undeclared. So if you change your mind on what you think you'd like to major in, then that's no problem because there you haven't declared it yet. And I think one of the great things about FPF is you're able to kind of explore all these different departments while you're doing your breadth requirements, and maybe you find something new that you're interested in. As for when you need to declare your majors, there you have a couple years to do it, but there's definitely no rush to do it while you're in your first semester of freshman year in the FPF program.
Great, thanks, Micah. Um, and to further add to Micah's response, you generally everybody should be declared. Everybody needs to declare their a major by the end of their second year. Of course, there are exceptions depending on certain majors, but as a general rule of thumb, across the College of Letters and Science, um, you would have to have declared a major by the end of your second year. So that includes the summer after your second year, but right before your third year. Um, and there's very specific details with specific majors, which we can get into um, during the fall when we meet with you virtually or in person to talk about, your academic plan. But I will pass it to Sarah for the next question.
So the next question I was going to address live is, um, well, the course offerings that I think the student access through our link tree, which is on our site, is that going to look pretty similar? Is there going to be any additional changes? And just to confirm, what you're seeing there on our site is pretty similar to how it's going to look for the upcoming fall. That is up to date. There is going to be an addition, I believe, of a theater course, a theater, which also is a theater and incorporates American culture. So that's going to be a really cool course. And then also a political science course that will be added as well, that I believe can satisfy international studies breadth. So yes, so what you're seeing up there right now is most likely going to be what's going to remain through the time that you all enroll.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think you indicated you're gonna answer the next question.
I
Yes.
did. Sorry. So that's a great question. This person asked if FPF students could take advantage of the academic advising component being caseloaded when they transition into the main campus in the spring semester. And so the answer to that is you will have academic advising support and lots of it, but you will be in the spring, you'll begin working with advisors in the College of Letters and Science. So you will not be caseloaded anymore with our program with the advisors in FPF. And we'll talk about that in the fall. We'll have a really cool workshop where we'll go over how to connect, with the advisor in your advising neighborhood, about the advisors in the major departments that you can actually start accessing, and connecting with right now, and even during the fall. But again, we'll talk about that in the fall semester, how to connect with advisors in letters and science and how that will look.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. Um, I will take on, so is there a recording of the session that we can access later? Yes. So this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube channel, which has been provided somewhere in the Q&A, and we can also add it later if it's too up.
Yeah. It's also in the chat as well as the link tree. And yeah, so that, and also just wanted to throw in there also in the Q&A, somebody had asked about restaurants or dining halls close to FPF. And I answered in the Q&A, but also here that one of the other places that you can use your credits for your meal plan is Brown's Restaurant, which is at the very tip of main campus, which is still about 2 blocks from the GBC. And they have some of the best food of the dining halls, from what I've heard. I see Sia's shaking her head, yes.
Great. Thank you, Amy. So I will be answering this live. So sorry if this has been answered already. Are we all assigned a dedicated FPF advisor who will help us select our classes? Yes. So each FPF student will have a dedicated academic advisor, which is one of the perks that FPF has, because if you were to start in the general College of Letters and Science, like not pursuing a first year pathway, um, those students don't have an assigned academic advisor that will be working with them closely in the fall. So FPF, you'll have an assigned academic advisor who will start outreaching to you as soon as next month, late May, um, or potentially early June, depending on just everything. But we will be outreaching to all of our FPF students to start discussing the fall, and generally Golden Bear Advising will be a great starting point where you all will be interacting with not only us academic advisors, but FPF peer mentors as well. Um, and in the summer, you'll hear pretty heavily from us regarding more additional webinars, potentially one-on-one appointments with you all, to start discussing how your fall will look like in terms of what AP scores you have came in, and which of those scores can help satisfy requirements, not only for your major, but university requirements. Or if you come in with any other requirements satisfied, that'll be the opportunity to engage with us throughout the summer to making sure that your fall semester, you'll be enrolling in classes that make the most sense in terms of the requirements you've already satisfied, and hopefully coming up with the game plan to knock out not only your general breadth requirements, but hopefully some major prerequisites as well. Um, is everyone going in undeclared? Yes. So within the College of Letters and Science, which FPF is a part of, every newly admitted first year student within the College of Letters and Science is undeclared. Um, so even if you indicated a specific major on your UC application, you are still technically undeclared. Um, and so that's why typically the general recommendation is the first 2 years of Berkeley, you are fulfilling major prerequisites. So if you are interested in a particular major, like political science, for example, you will be taking political science prerequisite courses in your first semester, your second semester, etc. And then after you fulfilled those major prerequisite classes, and it depends on each major how many prerequisites, um, after you complete the prerequisites, then you're able to declare the major. And usually you would meet with a major advisor to complete that process of declaring the major. Um, but you don't need to know all that information right now, as your academic advisors in the fall will be able to discuss with you the specifics on how all of this works, because there's a lot of moving parts within just how to declare a major and how that works within the College of Letters and Science. Um, Sarah, will students be assigned?
Yes. So this question, I thought this would be a great question to answer live, because I think a lot of students are curious about being assigned an advisor in our program and how that might look when they transition into LNS in the spring. So just to clarify, students in FPF all are assigned an academic advisor. And so it'll either be myself or Juan or Amy. And that typically happens late May, early June. So you'll hear from your assigned advisor in FPF around that time. And we'll go over the summer timeline and how to connect with us, how to schedule appointments, and all those good details. Now, is in terms of LNS advisors, when you finish our program in the fall and you transition into LNS, kind of main campus in the spring, you are not assigned an advisor in the College of Letters and Science. So they do have these really great neighborhoods, academic advising neighborhoods set up there. So you can meet with an advisor if you have an idea about what you want to pursue as your major. You can meet with an advisor in that advising neighborhood. Or you can meet with anyone. So it's really cool. It's designed, there's lots of flexibility there. The next time you will be assigned an advisor is when you declare your major and you're accepted to that major. And at that point, which is typically around your junior year or your third year in college, you will have an assigned advisor at that point.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And please feel free, no question, like if you have any questions, no matter how small or big, please ask them in the chat. This is your time to, you have you have all the academic advising staff plus peer mentors uh right in front of you. So please take advantage of asking us all the questions. We are scheduled till 5:30. So if questions stop coming, by then we'll end the webinar, but you have until 5:30 to ask us all the questions. Great. Let's see. So I will tackle through some of these questions live. So, let's see. Are FPF students considered undeclared in their major after first semester? In general, yes. But like I said earlier, you would have to be fulfilling in your first 2 years. That's the general guidelines. Within your first 2 years, you are completing major prerequisites. Um, and then once you've satisfied all the major prerequisites in the major that you're intending to declare, that's when you're able to basically begin the process of declaring that major. So, but there are certain circumstances where, for example, a student might be able to fulfill all their major prerequisites within FPF, which is a lot more common for the social sciences and humanities majors because there's a lot of overlap between the majors in major prerequisites. Um, so for example, if you're coming in intending to declare psychology, for example, you might be able to fulfill all the major prerequisites for psychology within FPF. And then depending on that major's process, you might be able to declare that major at the very end of the fall semester or at the beginning of the spring semester. Um, so it just depends on each of the specific major that you're trying to um, declare. Each major has its own separate prerequisites, and depending on even if you do some majors, even if you do even if you complete all the prerequisites in the fall semester, some majors are like you have to wait until the beginning of your second year to declare. So it all depends on the major itself. So one of the perks of FPF is you will have, as an assigned academic advisor, will be able to um, answer those questions and monitor your progress and walk you through in the fall semester when we meet with you individually, walk you through the specificities of your intended major.
I can add on to that as well. There's another question about like if you already know what major you want. Um, but just add on to what you're talking about before. In my experience, most majors kind of have, I don't know, between like 4 and like 8 prerequisite classes. And most of them will be like breadth type courses. So the kind of things you can take in FPF. And they might have like 1, 2, or 3 like core courses, like specifically tailored to the major that you might have to take as well. And like you have any, like you can take these courses anytime in your first 4 semesters. So to answer the second question, I would say it doesn't really matter if you know what major you want or not, because everyone starts in the same place of being undeclared, and everyone will reach the same place of being declared by the end of their 4th or by the end of their sophomore spring semester. So it doesn't really matter too much in what order you're taking your breaths or your major prerequisites, or I mean, oftentimes they overlap as well. So I would say, yeah, you would not be behind by doing FPF just because like breath courses and FPF and major prereqs often overlap. Um, and then even if they didn't, there's not really a behind because everyone starts as long as like everyone will declare at different times. So there's not really a set semester that people are declaring their major. So in that sense, you can't really be behind on declaring your major, just as long as it's happening by your end of your sophomore year, which is again pretty easy to do because there's a lot of time and a lot of semesters for classes to take.
Great, thank you, Quinn. Um, Amy, I think you have you're answering a few questions live. So
Sure. I'll piggyback 2 questions. Thanks, one. One is, one of the questions was, can I continue to use my FPF advisor in the spring? So that's a complex answer. One is we will be working with you, your dedicated FPF advisor, helping you starting this summer to choose your fall classes, working with you all the way through the fall. And then we will also be the ones who will be helping you to choose your spring semester, so your spring 2026 schedule when you're ready to do that. So we will be working with you through the end of December in choosing your spring semester. Once spring happens, though, I think it was Sarah who had shared with you that you will then have an LNS advisor and you'll start to work with your other advisors. So we won't officially be your advisor anymore. If you do have any highlights you want to share with us, though, it really is always nice to hear from you like, hey, you got this award, or you got that scholarship, or you're transferring to whatever graduate school. So do continue to give us updates, but we are no longer your official advisor. But do learn how to take advantage of us and really get used to making appointments. And in the spring and following semesters, you'll want to really plan ahead when you're going to be wanting to consult with an advisor, because you may not be able to schedule an appointment with them as quickly. But many of them also have drop-in hours. The other question I was going to answer is there an FPF group chat that you can meet up with fellow FPF students and maybe walk back to the dorms together, especially at night? We as staff do not host anything like this or initiate it, but I strongly encourage you to exchange contact info with classmates, with other people that you meet in the lounge. There's a lounge that you may find yourself spending time with at the or in the FPF building. And again, one of the benefits of the small classes is it makes it easier to make contact with folks. When I first came to university, I started off in like 300 to 500 to 800 person classes, for real, 800, my biggest lecture hall. And it was hard to meet anybody. So really do take advantage, and you'll find out some of those friendships you'll make, even some that you heard, from the previous student speakers. But I don't know if Micah or Quinn or Sia, did you do any walking to and from campus for classes that ended late in the day?
I was in Unit 3, which is the closest dorm to the FPF, and I just like to walk. So I definitely did it. I would say the like best thing to do is just like within those classes, like if you have a class that's going late, just meet people, see if there are people who are in your dorms, or even unit 1, 2, and 3 are all pretty close together too. So even if they're not in your dorm exactly, they're all in the same area. Um, and I'm sure there will be other people who, have the same feeling and want to walk back, but would like to do it with some company.
Yeah. And for those of you that may have a longer walk, the farthest way, nobody ever asks which is the farthest dorms. The farthest are Clark Kerr, which are nestled up in the hills. And one of the benefits, it is longer. It's a little further of a bus or a shuttle ride. It's a farther walk for sure. But if you like being up kind of close to the hills and a track with the most spectacular view of the whole Bay Area, you can see every bridge in the Bay Area. And from what I've heard, Clark Kerr Dining Hall has some of the best food.
Great, thanks, y'all. Um, Sarah, I think you have the next few questions.
Okay, thank you, Juan. I wanted to go back to one of the slides that ties in with this question here to correct something that I shared. So this question that came in is, sorry if this has already been asked, but when is the deadline to apply for the program? So for our opt-in students, our program fills on a first come, first served basis. So I should have mentioned that in the slide there. Typically there's no issue with students, wanting to join by the May 2nd deadline, with our program filling up prior to that deadline. I think currently right now we're fine, but if you have more additional questions about that, feel free to reach out to us at our email, fpf@berkeley.edu. So just to kind of clarify that, it just to reiterate, it is on a first come, first served basis. And then for our directly admitted students, that's a bit different as admissions is involved in that process, in placing them in our program. So the next, and hopefully that answered your question. If not, please feel free to resubmit in the Q&A. And the next question that I wanted to touch on, how does being an FPF impact if someone transfers out of LNS, for example, the School of Engineering, or decided to double major? And I'd love to hear from our mentors too about this if they have any thoughts. But just in my experience working in advising in the program, it does not adversely affect or create any hindrance for students who are intending to double, to pursue 2 majors in LNS or a simultaneous degree, which is a major in LNS and then a major in a different school or college on the Berkeley campus. So no issues at all there. I think a lot of it really kind of comes down to the types of programs that you're wanting to combine, and also when you're starting on those requirements. Now, when it comes to the School of Engineering, I do want to share that that is probably one of the few colleges on campus that we've heard from, and the advising and from their website as well, that strongly encourages students to have a backup program or major in their home school or college to that home, to the college or school that they were admitted to at Berkeley, and that they're welcome. You can meet with advisors there in College of Engineering to discuss your preparation and the courses you've completed and exams and all of that. But I think just due to their numbers, that in space, being a space issue, they do really encourage students to have a backup program in mind. But also with that, keep in mind, students can pursue minors and they can still access those courses and programs in engineering, maybe not being an engineering student, but perhaps pursuing a minor. And I don't know, mentors, you have anything you want to add on about pursuing double majors or multiple minors or things like that while being in FPF?
For me personally, I mean, I am pursuing a major and then 4 minors. They are all in the College of Arts and Science, so I wouldn't know too much about pursuing a simultaneous degree in a different college. But just for me personally, pursuing several different degrees in LNS, I mean, FPF did not have a much of an impact on that for me. I mean, I feel like I don't have any friends who are doing as many degrees as me, and I was an FPF, so being an FPF did not like stop me from having as many degrees as I wanted or could have.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Quinn. Okay, so and then the next question I did want to get to as well, and this is a really common question that comes up, is are FPF teachers and professors the faculty of Berkeley? So yes, a number of our instructors also teach courses on the main campus. They're also faculty and instructors at San Francisco State University and at Stanford and at other local universities. And just to clarify that our instructors are screened and vetted the same way, the same manner in which instructors are hired, faculty are hired on the main campus. Um, so I think that is it for me for now.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Mhm.
Um, Sia, it looks like you're gonna answer a question live.
Yeah, so the question is referring to how FPF courses work with study abroad programs. First of all, thinking about studying abroad as a freshman is you're thinking ahead. Um, but in general, there is within the College of Letters and Sciences, there's a 55 unit like above or below that determines kind of what prereqs are required for studying abroad. It definitely depends on your major. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into it, but with FPF courses in general, I don't think because it's your first semester, it's really going to hinder or help your study abroad application. Um, but I would look into what your intended major is and their personal requirements on study abroad because that can add to or subtract from your breaths, fulfilling your electives, etc.
Great. Thank you, Sia. Um, and Amy, I know you're typing a response to Hayden. Um, but just to give further clarification, um,
Mhm.
FPF does not hinder the process of transferring into a different college. I just wanted to note that one of our FPF peer mentors who is not here right now, said, he actually did FPF in 20, fall of 2022, and now he is pursuing a major in business administration, which is only in the Haas School of Business. Um, so if you want to talk to him in the summer and the fall regarding that particular, and this is um available for all students who are interested in the pre-Haas Haas route of pursuing a business major, that we have a student peer mentor who has done that route. So if you have any questions regarding the student experience, feel free to, like, in the summer and the fall, please go to him if you have any questions regarding that specific experience. Back to you, Amy.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Juan. Yeah, so absolutely. And Osed is our in-house expert on this. Also, Haas does a fantastic info session like we're doing now in the fall. I think they do a couple of them that are great. I attended one of them last semester and it was fantastic. So you can get a lot of information there. One of the things to be aware of about it, just a couple of teasers, is that you do not need to have a 3.9 or 4-point GPA to get in. And what they're looking for is leadership and vision. You don't have to join every business club. They're also looking for what life experience is going to set you up well to make an impact in the world. So that's what they're looking for. Yeah, so I just wanted to let you know that.
I was going to answer a question live about what time FPF courses start and end. It's kind of just like there's for both FPF and just LNS or courses in general, there's just like a giant list of classes and they're all throughout the day. There's a class at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. I would say 8 or 9 a.m. is probably the earliest courses that are offered. And then the latest courses are offered. I've had a class as late as 6 p.m. I don't think FPF courses are start that late, but just generally they're spread out throughout the day. And you'll choose your schedule. I mean, if you don't want to have an 8 a.m. class, you don't have to. You can choose a class that starts later. But yeah, classes are going to be are offered basically all throughout the day.
Great, thank you, Quinn. Amy, you have your hand raised.
Yes. And one more thing, I just wanted to let all of you know that some of the majors are heavily impacted. For instance, Haas, and those heavily impacted majors tend to change every semester. The other thing that Haas wanted to make sure all students at UC Berkeley are aware of is that even those of you who may apply to Haas and not get in, you can still take business classes. And that is true for all of the high impact majors here at UC Berkeley. Just because you do not necessarily get into your major does not mean that you cannot also take a certain number of classes and have a good background within that field. So just wanted to share that information with you.
There's a question about the waitlist. I'm assuming you're talking about the waitlist for Berkeley, not the waitlist for FPF. So I was on the waitlist for Berkeley, and on the little thing that was like opting into the waitlist or whatever, there was a thing that said if I was accepted off the waitlist, would I say would I want to be an FPF, which I assume is what you're seeing. And I just checked it. I don't know if that changes, and I don't think any of us know if that changes your chances of getting off the waitlist for Berkeley. My thought process at the time was like it couldn't hurt. Like maybe it would make a difference, maybe it wouldn't. But it didn't seem like a negative thing to me. So I checked it off. And I would say I don't think there is a way. I don't think the demonstrating interest part is a factor, I would say, from my experience getting off the wait list. But yeah, I think a lot of it is a little bit mysterious and like the Office of Undergraduate Admission handles some of it, and it's not necessarily clear on how like the processes work. But yeah, that's just my experience that I can share.
Great. Thank you, Quinn. Um, which are the heavily impacted majors? So, Sarah, you're gonna take this question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to address, and I put the link in the chat just now for you all as well. But currently the LNS high demand majors there's 5 of them, which is art practice, political economy, social welfare, operations research and management science, which is now called analytics, and public health. And just to clarify, for these programs, if you apply to LNS with this as your first choice major and you were accepted into LNS with this major, then you have a seat essentially that is reserved or set aside for you, assuming that you complete all the prerequisites and that you pass them with C's or with 2.0 or higher. And for students who are interested in these programs who maybe didn't indicate them on their application when applying to Berkeley, please know that you still can apply. And you'll see some details on this link, I think, that I sent through, where it kind of explains the comprehensive review process and what that entails. But yeah, just to give you a little bit of details on the high demand majors. And luckily, there's about 70, or well, maybe not that many, but 60 plus other programs in LNS that are not high demand or impacted. So there's a lot of options to choose from.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So there are three open questions. Okay, Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, for this one, maybe each of the peer mentors can give their own experience. For me, I think I'll talk a little bit about it before. The first reason I picked FPF was honestly because I was on the wait list and there were just boxes to check of like if I got off the wait list, would I participate in this program? So I just checked them. But I also was interested because I came from like small schools growing up with really small class sizes, and I enjoyed it a lot. Then I went to a big public high school, and I was kind of interested in seeing if, you know, how it would be if they knew Berkeley was a giant school. So I was interested to see, you know, how different it would be if I got to have that small school experience again, comparing it to the giant Berkeley experience. And I'm glad I did that. And then maybe other peer mentors have, you know, other reasons why they chose FPF.
Um, I can I can go. I was it was a part of my admission, so I did not directly choose it, but knowing what I know now about the program, if I had been given the option to choose, I definitely would have. I came from a smaller high school, so I think the FPF was this, good kind of middle ground between what I had then and what I have now, which are, these larger lectures. And I think it was a great way to meet people because you're not in, these giant lecture halls. You're at like desks, it's kind of a normal high school classroom layout. And I think it's a good environment to get introduced to the college experience. And you don't really miss out on anything because you're still on campus. You can still join organizations and hang out in the library or on the Glade or whatever you'd like to do. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. Um, Thank you both. Um, how hard is it to get into the analytics major since it is impacted? So we, as FPF academic advisors, cannot really provide you how hard a major you can, like how hard or what are the chances of you getting accepted into a particular impacted major will be. That's a conversation that you have to have with a specific major advisor for those impacted majors. And so each major within the impact, like each impacted major, I'm sure has their own dedicated team of major advisors that will be able to help you more with these kinds of questions regarding how difficult it is to get into those majors. Um, and we have two more questions in the Q&A chat. We are scheduled till 5:30, so this is your last opportunity to ask all the questions. But before that, Amy, are you gonna ask or respond to a question?
I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, great. Um, cool. So I can take on this one. Is Golden Bear Center for FPF students only, or Golden Bear Center offers classes that other students not belong to Berkeley can take? Well, yes. So it is not, so the Golden Bear Center is a building that hosts multiple programs. FPF is one of them. It is part of University Extension. So it is a department where folks who typically are not UC Berkeley undergraduate students. UC Berkeley Extension offers classes that, like, for example, staff, like UC Berkeley staff can enroll in UC Berkeley Extension courses. And so there's like differences across the different programs. Summer sessions and study abroad have offices in the Golden Bear Center and also advising offices. So you'll see, um, if you're part of FPF and take FPF classes in the Golden Bear Center, you'll probably run into different staff and different students who may not be involved in FPF, but are partaking in the different programs that are hosted within the UC Berkeley Extension building, which is also known as the Golden Bear Center for FPF students. Um, and there are a few questions that folks are, um, there's a few questions that folks are typing out in answers. So, um, does anybody know about the parking situation? I wouldn't know because I don't drive. But does anybody have anything, any information regarding parking?
I'll answer, I'll just, as somebody who lives in Berkeley, has a car, I walk the 1.5 miles to the Golden Bear Center. That's what I'd encourage you to do. It is downtown Berkeley. So if you're not from here, or for those of you who are, the Golden Bear Center is downtown Berkeley. It's not easy to park as in, any downtown area. You can, think I put a link in that question in the Q&A. So there is actually, I just looked it up as I saw the question. So you can buy a student parking permit that will allow you to park in some of the campus parking lots. It's not inexpensive, but you may want to check that out. And then you may want to, but we are a couple blocks from a BART station. So you may want to think about taking BART. And just this year, all of you as incoming students and all UC Berkeley students actually receive not only an AC Transit, which is our local bus system, a free pass, but starting this fall, that pass is also going to include BART. So you're allowed to take BART. So you may find it easier depending on where you are commuting from. So that's just a question or an answer to that.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Uh, so I will take on this question, and then Sarah, you can follow up with the question that you're going to answer live. So I'm assuming this question is asking, what is a breadth course? Um, so breadth courses are um, one, so each student within the College of Letters and Science and all colleges in UC Berkeley, like the College of Chemistry, College of Engineering, etc., typically follow the breadth requirements as similar to College of Letters and Science. Breadth classes, you are required to take 7 classes by the point of your graduation, which breadth classes, think of it as general education courses. You have to fulfill 1 class per subject within the College of Letters and Science. So off at the top of my head, the general breadth classes are social and behavioral sciences, physical science, biological science, arts and literature, philosophy and values, and I cannot name the other two off the top of my head. But you are required to take 1 class per category. So that's what I mean by 7 class. So there are 7 categories of breadth that you are required to take. Unfortunately, 1 class cannot fulfill 2 breadth requirements. So that's why I say by the end of by the point of graduation, you're supposed to take up to 7. but major prerequisites can also fulfill breadth classes can also potentially fulfill major prerequisites. So again, we'll discuss that more specifically in the fall when you meet with us and demystify what that actually means. So yes. Any other questions to answer live? I am not too sure about the Geth learning community, so if anybody wants to answer that.
I can. So, Geth Learning Community is one of the themed housing communities. And although FPF students are not to take seminars, the themed housing community seminars you are allowed in. So that goes for if not only Geth, but for all of the themed housing communities. And in fact, I believe if you're in themed housing, I believe it's a requirement that you take the associated seminar. So that's an automatic and that will not count. Actually, that's a question for Sarah and Juan. Will that one unit count toward their 5 units of main campus? Since it's required for their themed housing.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
typically it does, yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Amy. Are the breadth requirements specific to the FPF program or the College of Letters and Science? The breadth requirements are a College of Letters and Science requirement. And there will be similar requirements across all the colleges within UC Berkeley. And the perks of FPF is that all of our classes are emulated or are designed specifically for students to fulfill breadth requirements. So it is a requirement to graduate as a College of Letters and Science student and in general across all colleges. Quinn, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to add, I know you mentioned that you can't overlap breadth requirements, and that's definitely true. But you can overlap breadth requirements to some of the other campus requirements, like the R1A, R1B requirements, or the American Cultures requirement. So there are, or like quantitative reasoning. So there are classes that you can take that will fulfill a breadth requirement as well as one of those. Or it can overlap between a breadth requirement and then also as being a major prerequisite. So you can kind of be, I guess, efficient if you really try to be, and your breadth classes can be fulfilling both the breadth and some other requirement as well at the same time.
Yes, thank you so much, Quinn. Great. So we are at time. So the last question that we will respond to is this final question to the peer mentors. After this question, we unfortunately we are at a time. So if you have any other questions, please email us at fpf@berkeley.edu. But this is the final question that we're taking on. So peer mentors, feel free to respond.
I think for me, I took an FPF in 2021. The program was a little different than it was now, and there still was a fee for FPF. So to me, that was like the one thing I didn't like about FPF was that I had to pay extra to be in it. But then the next year they took away the fee, so now like that problem's been solved. So yeah, I mean they fixed what I didn't like, and that's great for you guys.
For me, I would go back and try and talk to my academic advisor more. I was one of those students who was super annoying and went to my teacher's office hours all the time. But I definitely regret not getting more advice on trying to schedule, especially my spring semester. I was kind of overwhelmed. And in general, just long-term planning. So if I could go back, I definitely would utilize my resources more.
I think it's the same for office hours. I didn't go to office hours as much last semester, and this semester I've been doing a lot more. And I can definitely say that like I regret not picking my teacher's brains from the FPF a little more.
For sure. Well, thank you all so much for your responses. Um, Great. So that formally concludes our webinar, our info session regarding FPF. Thank you all so much for your active um, engagement with our panelists, academic advisors, and peer mentors. Um, if you have, like I said, we answered all the questions in the Q&A, but if you still have any specific questions or any questions that you want to ask privately, please email us at fpf@berkeley.edu. So, like I said, this formally concludes our webinar. So, thank you all so much for attending. We're excited to hopefully see you all in the summer and in the fall. And please